Welcome back to the show. Well, Melbourne mum Sharon Thurin saw a gap in the market for healthy snacks and Slim Secrets was born. Now it's operating in more than 15 countries and is tipped to increase profits by 50% this year. Sharon and her son, Director of International Sales, Jamie Thurin, join me now from Melbourne. Thank you both, Sharon and Jamie, for being with us. Yours was somewhat of a first mover in this space. How did the business come about?
It came about, I was actually working at the time with some medical specialists and accidentally saw a gap in the market when I was actually doing some health and wellness coaching and had some clients, and what I realised very quickly was the importance of the food that we ate in terms of our health and weight management as well. And what they knew, what my clients actually knew was that what they ate for meals, they knew what to do. But when it actually came to snacking, they just let them down. So I tried to find some healthy snack alternatives for them at the time. And when I looked, the products really were just for, bodybuilders or hardcore Weight Watchers. So there was really a gap at that time in the market for lifestyle snack products.
Right. And Jamie, of course, you would have been around the business for many years since you were young, and now you're the Director of International Sales. So how did you come to enter the business?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you're right. So I've been watching the business grow through, being mum's son for many years. I was working as a lawyer for 4.5 years. Went into a retail operations role in a fashion company, and I was obviously talking to mum and the family quite often about the business and where it was going, and I guess the common theme that I kept on hearing was that there was always this interest from overseas markets, and that there was all these approaches for different countries around the world wanting to, look into the product and to export or import the product into their markets. And I get a brand in a new country requires more people, and I think it was a great opportunity and a great time for me really to come into the business to help mum and the team locally grow it overseas and to really feed that demand in those export markets.
Yeah, and it's growing very, very quickly, going gangbusters. But before we get to some of those sorts of numbers, one of the questions that we kind of had popping up around the newsroom is what's it like? A mother and a son duo, a team, we don't see that many of them. How's it been?
I'll let you start with that one first.
I love it. I love it. As a mum, it's fantastic. Jamie lives in Sydney and we're based in Melbourne, so I actually speak to him, many times per day, probably more than I would if he lived in Melbourne. Look, we work very well together.
Yeah, I think we complement each other very well. I think we're both very similar in a lot of ways, but we're also very different, and we have really clear roles. We have very clear understanding over who's doing. Believe it or not, after 4 years, I don't think we've had a big fight or any serious argument. And I think we made it pretty clear from the beginning. If we did, we'd walk away. We wouldn't let it interfere on our personal relationship. So that's been really important. And obviously, having the support of my dad and her husband and my brother and sister and family, they're always there to kind of make sure that we're keeping in line and not butting heads too much.
Oh, fantastic!
And also, too, just from a business perspective, it's great having young blood in the business as well. Yeah. So to drive different parts of it.
Well, absolutely, and it seems to be working. You've tipped potential for 50% growth in profit this year. So what is allowing for that? What's going to happen here?
I'll pass that on to Jamie because it's actually to do with our global growth.
Yeah, I think the big thing that we saw with growing the business, we saw that we've really created and developed a huge business here locally. We've been, no credit to myself, but to mum and the team here in Australia, been ranged in the supermarkets in Coles since inception for 12, 13 plus years. We're in a lot of the other major retailers, be it Chemist Warehouse, Priceline, WH Smith and more. But what we realised pretty quickly was that to actually grow the business, those markets or those retail channels are going to be pretty hard to grow. But export was a way of really, I guess, more speedily growing the business. But at the same time, whilst there are huge opportunities and whilst there are countries around the world with far greater populations than what we have here in Australia, it doesn't kind of come without its challenges as well. But it really is the growth of those export markets, predominantly in Asia and the Middle East, that are really driving that estimated growth for this financial year.
And the business has been around for 14 years, which is a significant amount of time in entrepreneur land these days. So perhaps you could explain to us, Sharon, how was the market when you came in? What were the challenges then? And how do they compare to the challenges that you're finding in the market now, 14 years later?
Oh, very interesting because, look, when I started, so it was really, I didn't, anticipate it being a business. So the challenges were minimal because I really didn't have any idea what I was doing. And as it's developed, I mean, things such as innovation. You can't sit on the supermarket shelves for 13 years unless you keep innovating your product range and ensuring that you use new ingredients and new different types of products. So, innovation is something that we just have to keep, moving forward with, and something that I believe we've actually done very well. Having different types of snack products. It's not just bars, but puddings. With and we've just launched some little choc bites with no sugar, and it's just constantly bringing out new products. So from a development perspective, that's definitely challenging, but fantastic. And the other area is marketing. When we launched, it was simple. Marketing was a really simple thing. You do PR, you put an ad in a magazine or get an editorial, or lots of smaller things, and it worked. Today, it's very different, and there's so many opportunities. And with a global brand, you also have to work out what is the best, to get the best value for what you're spending. So lots of challenges there.
Absolutely, Sharon. When it comes to social media, it feels like Instagram and health food products is a bit of a match made in heaven. You've adapted into this space. I know that you're partnered with Sophie Monk as one. Perhaps you could tell us a bit about that. But then also, Jamie, about how you get the word out in other countries as well. Is it the same method?
Yeah. We've actually done some fantastic collaborations. I mean, Sophie's one of them. We collaborated with the #1 tennis player in the world, female tennis player in the world, 3 years ago. We've been in the States. Sally Pearson, we have collaborated with. We've really tried to collaborate with diverse influencers, but the one important thing that we actually do is ensure that they try the product, like the brand, and that way it's different when you actually see that they do enjoy the product to never having tried it.
Yeah, and I think to your question about the global reach and how we utilise that. Obviously, every country that we sell a product to is very different in the way that their marketing operates. The way that we need to communicate to the customers varies. If you look at China, or if you look at other parts of Asia, they want to understand the emotive elements of the brand, and you need to appeal to the emotions as opposed to the functional benefits, for example, which we do here, more so in Australia. And what works here locally doesn't necessarily work in those markets, whether it's just a post on social media or that you use for your marketing. So, as Mum pointed out before, it's always changing, it's always evolving. We're looking to grow, we want to expand, but we really need to actually have the right people on the ground to understand the markets, who know the way the customers think. And I think more importantly than that, it's all good and well to trust people, but we are now putting more and more money and investing more money into actually getting over there ourselves. I've just come back from Vietnam and heading to Dubai next week, and then to Tokyo as well, and really kind of going to the places where we are seeing a return on investment and being there to support our partners and really understanding the landscape so that all of our marketing is targeted to their needs, not just ours, and then translated for them.
Oh, there's so much going on. And it's been so nice to talk to you because as a son who's in Sydney with his mum in Melbourne, you've inspired me to pick up the phone right after the show and make sure I have a good chat. So thank you very much, Sharon and Jamie there from Slim Secrets. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.